Due to COVID-19, the City Council meetings have restricted space for the public. This space now includes the lobby area where there's a monitor broadcasting the live meeting. All attendees are expected to have appropriate decorum, whether you're in the council chambers or lobby. Please leave the building if you have a fever, if you have a cough. Okay, with that, I want to call the work session to order for October 13th, 2020. What do we have?
Thank you this evening, Mr. Mayor. This evening we have an item on the work session that is also on the regular agenda for tonight, the last item that's on the agenda. And to have more of an overview and discussion regarding this item, regarding the Center 301 Apartments is Dave Clements. He'll do some introduction and some history on this project.
Mayor Davis, members of the council, I'm going to provide a general overview of the proposed development and discuss the Planning Commission recommendation, and then the applicant development team is present for a greater overview and detailed presentation. This application tonight is a request for a rezoning from an existing C2 general commercial district to a R3A multi-family planned unit development and a preliminary development plan for this 17-acre site located at the southeast corner of Town Center Drive and Markey Parkway. The overheads do have the landscape plan posted for your review. The plan depicts 306 apartments and a clubhouse on the site. I think one of the strengths of the proposed development plan is that there are 4 distinct types and styles of buildings, all with an attractive design and great variety of building materials such as hardy board siding, brick, and stone. And many of those buildings have first floor garages as amenities for the residents. Now, of the 306 apartments, they're split roughly half and half between 2-bedroom units and 1-bedroom units. Now, of the 2-bedroom units and 1-bedroom units, they are not all the same floor plan. As I stated, there are 4 different types of buildings, and that enables to have a greater variety of floor plans for the 2-bedroom units and the 1-bedroom units. The plan also includes a 3,600 square foot clubhouse at this location. 3,600 square foot clubhouse. And the clubhouse includes an outdoor swimming pool, cabana, outdoor kitchen, business center, and a fitness facility. There is also a dog exercise area at this location on the plan. And one of the other key features of the plan is an extensive network of sidewalks and trails that connect all the buildings to and from the buildings and connect with the major trail east and west through the site. An important element of the landscape plan I'll point out, as long as we do have the landscape plan posted, is abutting the Target store and portions of the Home Depot. Our code does require what's defined as a type A buffer. This is a heavily landscaped area, and the applicant has done a nice job in preparing a buffer plan with 10-foot trees, coniferous trees, and that's 10-foot mature height at planting. Here is a sample elevation of the buildings on the site. As I stated, there are 4 types of buildings available on the preliminary plan. There are 20 unit buildings total. This particular building does show the first floor garages. It's a 3-story building, and you can begin to get a feel for the hardy board siding, the brick and stone, the different types of materials that are proposed, and a great variety of roof lines and peaks and gables to give the project a nice residential feel. The Planning Commission convened a public hearing on September 21st. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezoning from the C2 district to the R3A, and that Planning Commission vote was 8-0 and to recommend to the City Council approval of the plan. And it's important to point out that no one spoke in opposition to the request. I'd be happy to answer any preliminary questions that the council may have, and as I stated, case development is present for a greater overview of some of the details of the project.
Questions? Councilwoman Davidson or Councilwoman Peak first?
Dave, the trails, are they concrete? Are they asphalt? Are they gravel? What are they?
Will there be a hard surface trail? Those will be called out with the final development plan, but they will be hard surface,
Okay.
either asphalt or concrete. Perhaps the applicant team has that defined at this point, but we will come back for the final development plan for the Planning Commission and a final plat where a lot of those actual details will be worked out.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Davidson.
I have a few questions. The property owner is listed as Pavilion Properties LLC. And then the developer is Case Development LLC. Do we know who will manage the property?
Case will develop and own the apartment complex.
Okay, thank you.
Pavilion Properties is the seller of the property to Case.
Okay. The meeting that occurred on the 21st, September 21st, were there any issues that came out of that meeting specifically regarding this development? Any discussion?
Yes, of course, there was discussion about the overall plan. Planning Commission, I think, received the proposed plan, preliminary development plan, and the architecture and landscaping plan very favorably, and they discussed those elements of the plan.
I recall hearing something about like a gravel issue, but I wasn't sure if that was this project. Excuse me, I wasn't sure if this was this project or another project, so thank you. And then, are there any incentives attached to this?
No, ma'am.
Let's see, what else? And then it looks like we're granting a few exceptions. Would you be able to
Sure.
talk about that?
The plan unit development includes rear yard exceptions for these small buildings right here. There is a 30-foot rear yard requirement for those buildings abutting the future site of the hotel, and the applicant has requested that rear yard be reduced to 27 feet. So just a 2 or 2.5 foot exception for those rear yards at that location. And because of the varied peaks on the roof line, you see the different heights. They give what I think is a really nice character. The maximum height in our code is 35 feet, and the average height of these peaks is 37 feet. So it's a 2-foot variance for the building height. And those are the only exceptions in the PUD.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave, could you go back to the request map? And put the arrow on the blank space over there where you said the hotel is? Okay, is that gonna work well with the project, the other project together with the apartments?
Oh, yes, Mayor Davis, I think that would be a really nice compatible development, having the hotel constructed at this location. Again, that was a preliminary plan of rezoning approved for the hotel about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And we're certainly hopeful that that will come forward and be constructed once perhaps the pandemic lessens. I think the thing that I liked about the plan is that I mentioned that there's an 8-foot trail that goes east-west through the project, and it begins right here. So the trail will provide ready access to the hotel development from the apartments and vice versa. So there's great connectivity between the apartments and the commercial abutting.
And where do those trails go to? What's the ultimate? When they leave from the complex here, where do they go?
Right. I'm sure the council knows that there's an 8-foot sidewalk along Marquee and Town Center Drive. And having that connection east-west ties into what's the Nexus Trail. The Nexus Trail then goes up to Memorial Park. And then further over near Menards, the trail will tie into Wallace Park and the High Blue Wellness Center.
Thank you.
So good connectivity between some of the city's parks and amenities.
Councilwoman Davidson.
This entire property will be fenced, right?
Correct. There is a perimeter fence around it.
So then will they have keypads at the sidewalks?
At the sidewalks, no.
Like where it would cross into the property?
No. That will be open.
Other questions? Councilman Finn.
Do we have a projected completion date on this project if it were to move forward?
Well, Case advised the Planning Commission that it would build all these buildings in one phase.
Okay.
And they anticipated starting in the spring. So it's a pretty substantial construction project, probably 12 to 18 months for completion.
Okay.
But if they might want to comment on that. That's just my estimation.
Sure, I'd welcome that.
Councilwoman Davidson.
I guess I would have a question for them also. If they anticipate buying any building supplies here locally.
Yes. You can,
Good stuff. Any questions? Anyone else? Well, do we have anything else, City Manager? Dave, do we have anything else?
well, the applicant team's present.
Mayor, I would advise that we ask the applicants to please come forward and then be able to answer any of the questions the council may have, if you don't mind. If you would also please provide your name and your address for the record.
I'm Patricia Jensen with the Ross Fretz Law Firm, with offices located at 4510 Bellevue, here today on behalf of the applicant. And with me is Scott Case. And Scott, you're going to have to give your address.
Hi, my name is Scott Case, president of Case & Associates. My address is 4200 East Skelly Drive, Suite 800 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74135. My last name?
Your street name.
Oh, Skelly, Skelly. Got me an address.
So as we'll try to address your questions as we go through this presentation. And if we forget some, please feel free to ask us again, because I'm getting older. I can't remember as well anymore. You've seen, and Mr. Clements did a good job of describing what we're here before you asking, which is to approve bill number 2020-49. It would rezone the property from the current C2 to R3A and approve the development plan for Center 301 apartments consisting of 306 units. I believe you all are very familiar with the location. I don't need to go into that. Scott Case is going to talk to you about who Case is, because they are a great apartment developer of great multifamily units. They're long-term owners, and they do manage their properties in conjunction with the developments they own. So with that, Scott Case is going to talk about who they are, what they do, and what they've done, and then we'll go through the renderings of our development before you. We'll also show you pictures of other developments that have been done throughout this region.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia, and good evening, staff and mayor and council. Thanks for having us this evening. My name is Scott Case, president of Case & Associates. We are headquartered out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are a full-service real estate management, investment, and development company. We've got over 100 assets spread throughout 5 different states. We've got about 1 million square feet of office, industrial, commercial. We have right at about 1,000 employees, and my dad actually started the company back in 1983. And so over the past 22 years, kind of our resume on the development side is that we've built over 50 developments in 11 different cities. So we're not new to development. This is very much kind of our bread and butter, and this is what we really enjoy doing. One of the frequent questions that's asked is, well, how many of those deals have you guys sold in the past 22 years? And of the last 50 deals that we've developed, we've sold 2. We sold, and one of them was an arm's length transaction to one of our local investors who had some 1031 money that he had to roll into a new deal out of a California deal, so we still manage it. So out of the last 50 deals, we don't manage one. So that's kind of our history. But really our goal is to provide young professionals, young and old, we're seeing both now, just a really nice place to live, great amenities, just a great place to call home. And we've had a lot of success. You know, we've seen kind of an influx of some active adults to say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of maintaining my home. I would rather live in a nice apartment to have a pool and game room and walking trails and dog parks. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go see my kids and not have to worry about my home or the maintenance. So we've really seen an influx of retirees, if you will, and active adults move in as well. A couple things I would like to mention, it's asked routinely, is that we are not an affordable company. We are a market rate development, I guess. So there will be no Section 8 or affordable housing on our project, if you will. So with that being said, can I address a couple of the questions that the council had asked? Okay, I'll talk real quick about the development. The Center 301 is 306 units. It's a combination of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. It's a Class A deal. As I mentioned earlier, it is a market rate, no Section 8, no affordable. Construction costs will be about $34 million in total, and it'll be a craftsman-styled architecture with a kind of a combination of brick and stone. All of the siding and the trim will be a hardy board, so the whole exterior will be a cementitious type product. So we build to hold, so we want to build them well. So. Yeah, and I'll address a couple of the questions. The trail that does run through is going to be a concrete trail. The 8-foot wide trail that ultimately connects to the Nexus Trail will be concrete. The property itself will be fenced. It will be gated with limited access gates. However, the pedestrian trail will be open. Obviously, we wouldn't want to cause any interruption in that trail. As I mentioned before, that we are the developers and we are the managers as well. So Case and Associates will develop and manage the property. We do expect to start in the spring of 2021 with an anticipated completion of probably the fall of 2022. We've been seeing construction time from start to finish, and as Patricia mentioned, it will be a one-phase deal. We're going to build all 360 units at one time, so it's typically about an 18-month process. And also the question about buying locally, obviously all of the concrete we buy will be locally, asphalt as well, and then as far as our lumber typically comes out of Wichita. That's about typically out of Star Lumber, but we do buy all of our door interior trim from a company called McRae Millwork. I don't know if you guys have heard of McRae, but they are out of Kansas City, so I'm happy to report that. So with that, I'll let Patricia kind of finish.
This is the site plan, and you've already seen it with the landscaping plan. So as Mr. Clements has highlighted, there are 316 units, 23 buildings, 1 community building, which will contain the leasing management office and also a number of the amenity spaces for the residents. There, of course, is a pool, a dog park, and then adequate parking spaces for our residents. These are the elevations that I'm going to go through. So this will show you the variety that Mr. Clements talked about. Just so you can get a feel of what we are proposing to build and the community that will be developed as a result of this. This is the landscape plan. We've got over 48% of open space, which meets your buffer requirements, actually exceeds them. And then as we've talked, we've got the sidewalk and the trail system that will connect to the Nexus Trail and provides access to Memorial Park, Wallace Park, and the Wellness Center. There are photos of other case projects. Scott, you might want to talk about these, and I can flip through them. So this gives you a feel of what they built in various cities.
Okay, so you're going to flip and I'm going to talk. Okay, okay. This was our one of our last developments in Wichita, Kansas. That's called Crestview. Very similar in style and color and finishes to what we're proposing for Center 301. This is a nice picture of the entry of the clubhouse in the pool area. Typically our clubhouses have, well, this one will have a nice recreation center with pool table, shuffleboard, Wi-Fi, business center, and a 24-hour fitness center as well. Just a few other pictures of that same clubhouse, just to kind of give you an idea of the style and the finish, and as well. There's our fitness center on the right as well. This is a development very similar there again to Center 301 is a Tallgrass Point, which we built in Owasso, Oklahoma, which is our hometown, basically Tulsa. Very similar in style. So what I hope is comforting to the city is this design is not new to us. We've kind of perfected it over the last few renditions, and we're really proud of it. Same style in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. It's called Scissortail Crossing. It was a 280-unit development. It's performing very well. And more pictures of the clubhouse as well. This is actually one in Tulsa that we just built called Cedar Ridge. We actually, from the time that we opened in January 3rd, if you can believe this. The pandemic hit in March, of course, and we were 94% occupied by July 4th. So just we have an unbelievable leasing team that we put together, and so we're really proud of them. Here's just some pictures of the photos of the interiors. Obviously, we have stainless steel appliances with a double fridge with the ice maker and the water in the door, full appliance package. We've got the wood look ceramic. It's actually a ceramic floor. It's a little more expensive than the kind of what you're seeing now is the kind of the wood look, the rubber, I guess the rubber floor. This is actually ceramic as well. Here's just another picture of living rooms. We do about a third of the property will do LED fireplaces. What we've determined through our experience is that people don't like to carry wood up into their apartment anymore. So what we do is we make it very convenient. We do an LED fireplace that actually has a heating element. So it doesn't put out quite the heat that a fireplace does, but it looks great. And you can turn it on in the summertime and it looks beautiful as well. Here's just a picture of the bedroom. Nice big bedroom. I do want to point out that the bed, we always do queen size beds. So one thing we like to brag on is that we do have large floor plans. So you can see this queen size bed fits easily in our bedrooms. Lots of windows.
And in the Kansas City metropolitan area, Case is actually building one project up north of the river. It is at 96th and North Oak, if you're familiar with the Northland of Kansas City. That project is currently under construction. It's been approved. They've got, I believe, slabs poured at this point in time. So that was approved by the City Council of Kansas City, Missouri, probably about a year ago, if I recall correctly. And then we are also proposing and have submitted an application in Independence at this point in time. So going back to section 20-3 of your rezoning criteria, we believe that this site meets all of that. Our request meets all of those criteria. The area is characterized by the retail development. There are no nearby single-family residential areas. And of course, residential density will further new development and aid in growth for all of the commercial areas surrounding it. There is the future land use map anticipated commercial in this site, but we believe it meets your housing goals and objectives of your comprehensive plan and your 2019 housing study. Suitability of the subject property for the uses. There are numerous underdeveloped commercially zoned areas or properties in this area. Today we know the market demand and the market demand for the apartment communities, the multi-unit properties is very, very strong. The number 4 says the trend of the development near the subject property. We believe that the trend supports this multifamily communities. It will provide a housing alternative for your residents. The extent to which the zoning amendment may detrimentally affect nearby property, we certainly do not believe that this is going to hurt any nearby property. We think it will enhance it. The public facilities are all adequate to serve this development, and the length of the time the property has remained vacant as zoned, no development has ever occurred on this site. So in summary, we would request that you approve Bill 2020-49, which is later on down on your agenda, and grant the exceptions to that Mr. Clements covered. And we're available to answer any further questions.
Councilman Finn?
Yeah, I had a question for Scott, Mr. Case. I noticed you guys built in Owasso and Broken Arrow as well, both great suburbs of Tulsa. And I was looking at populations of both of those, and it looks like Broken Arrow is like at 109,000, Owasso's at 36,000. We would be, I believe, the smallest city you've ever built in. Is that right? Have you built anything smaller than 24K?
You know, it's one of the smallest, but we kind of look at as Belton as part of just a bedroom community of Kansas City. And so we've had a lot of good luck in the Owassos and the Broken Arrows. And we recently built in, and we've got 4 deals in Waco now, and we built one down in Temple. That's a little bit of a smaller market, and we're doing well right there. So we like the bedroom communities. We feel like we can come in and we have a great team. We have a great team of employees that are able to manage well, and so
Sure.
no, we typically do a very thorough feasibility study, market study. We look at kind of our competitors, of course, and there's not many competitors down in Belton, which is why we were drawn to Belton.
Opportunity, yeah.
Because
yeah.
there's opportunity, and the study that Patricia mentioned, that there was a demand. So that's why we're here tonight.
Great. So could we hold you to the same standard to get in 6 months and get 90%?
I hope. I
hope you do it as well. I know
Yes,
you guys will
thank
do great.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Councilwoman Davidson?
Yeah, you kind of touched on this just now, but about how full would you say that your other properties are on, like total on average?
I was just talking to Patricia earlier, and surprisingly, and I've got a report I'd be happy to show you, that our total portfolio, and we have right at 30,000 apartment units in 5 states, we're running right at 96% occupancy, even through the pandemic, which I think is unbelievable. So.
You also touched on this a little bit, but were there any other reasons why you were drawn to Belton specifically?
You know, we there again, obviously the demand and the study that was done, we felt like you know, we could come down and we could provide opportunity, and you guys have a great town, and you've done the work on the retail side, but whenever you can, you know, move bodies into the city and you know, live, work, and spend in your town, that's typically beneficial.
Maybe 2 more questions. It just depends on where this goes. Have you ever dealt with a rental inspection program with any of your other facilities?
I'm not familiar with that term. I know. Can you elaborate just a bit?
Yeah, there are some cities and states, there are quite a few around here actually in the KC Metro that have rental inspection programs locally. So basically all of the units are subject to some sort of inspection every couple of years at turnover, whatever the case. They're all a little bit different, but I was just kind of trying to see if maybe you had any, if you had any properties that were subject to a rental inspection program.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. We own 4 developments in Ridgeland, Mississippi. Ridgeland, Mississippi, they have a 1 or 2 inspectors who inspect every single apartment at every single, prior to every single move-in. And so we basically have to recertify a quote-unquote, a certificate of occupancy every time that unit does turnover. And so, yes, we are familiar, and we've had other deals in Dallas that we've had that same rental inspection. So that would not be new to us.
Councilwoman Davidson, I think you know Kansas City, Missouri does have a
Yes.
rental registration program. So
Yep.
the development there is not yet constructed, so they haven't been subject to it here, so.
Oh, I forgot my last question. I didn't write it down. All right. Well, hopefully somebody else has questions and I can think about it.
Other questions? Councilman Trutzel?
We mentioned, when I talked with you the other day when you did planning and zoning, the average price, or average salary that these units produce. And then furthermore, I was kind of curious about, you have that high percentage of occupancy, but there must be a lot of long-term renters here. Are we assuming that we're talking about a year or 2 or more, or what?
That's a great question. We do have several residents who do stay with us for years at a time. However, I'll just be transparent with you. The typical turnover rate is, and we look at that every month, is right at about 35 to 40% annually. So every year you're going to see about 35 to 40% of those units turnover, which means you're going to have occupants move out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
sufficiently?
It is.
Okay.
The council probably doesn't know that you kind of had an average of what the general salary was for the people that rent from you. And that is?
Oh, general salary, yes. So we did we kind of keep the demographics of all of our recent deals. And so we looked at our last 6 deals, and the average income was right at $70,000 per year. Now that could be a dual income family if it's a 2-bedroom, so that could be a dual income family. However, the average is right at $70,000 per year. Our rental rates are going to start at about $950 to $965, and then go up to $1,400. And so that's what we've kind of seen that the market, where the market is and the market will allow.
Yes, I would say, I'm glad that you have chosen Belton to do this project.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Councilwoman Davis, you remembered.
I remembered. Thank you. I was just curious, and this is probably a loaded question, but why did you not ask for any incentives for this project?
That's just not what we do. And so this is our second deal in the Kansas City area. And it's just not what we do. We're just kind of a heads-up developer. And so are you offering anything up that I should ask for this
Oh,
evening?
no, I'm not. No, I just, I think it's really nice when a company can come in here and put together a great proposal and not ask us for anything or the community for anything, honestly. It's refreshing, and so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Anybody else? Thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much.
you very much. Thank you. Okay. With that, we're going to adjourn the work session. Right now, we'll call the meeting to order of October 13th, 2020. At this time, Councilman Lathrop, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Davis,
Here?
Councilmember Savage, Councilmember Lathrop,
Here.
Councilmember Trutzel,
Here.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Here.
Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Finn,
Here.
Councilmember Davidson,
Here.
Councilmember Peak.
Here.
Okay. Personal appearances this evening. We were supposed to have Mary Cummings this evening, and she couldn't make it this evening. So I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Peak to read the proclamation for Buckle Up, Phone Down proclamation, please.
The Buckle Up, Phone Down proclamation. Whereas the Missouri Department of Transportation and the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety are challenging the community to buckle up and put your phone down. And whereas the challenge is simple. When you get into any vehicle, buckle up your safety belt, and if you are the driver, put your cell phone down. And whereas in 2019, 876 drivers and passengers were killed in vehicle accidents in Missouri. And whereas in 2018, 6 out of 10 vehicle occupants killed in Missouri traffic crashes were unbuckled. And over the last 4 years, crashes involving cell phones have increased by 35%. And whereas employees and safety partners will be making special efforts to reach out to businesses and individuals alike. By buckling up and putting your phone down, even for one day, you will be doing your part to make Missouri's roads safer. And whereas the simple task of buckling everyone in the vehicle and choosing not to use your phone while driving can help save your life, the lives of your passengers, and occupants of other vehicles. And whereas it's time to join the movement and stand up and be counted. Take the challenge at modot.org. Arrive alive. Now therefore, Jeff Davis, Mayor of the City of Belton, hereby declares Friday, October 16th, 2020 as Buckle Up, Phone Down Day in Belton. We urge all citizens to take MoDOT's Buckle Up, Phone Down Challenge and learn more about the risks associated with cell phone use and not buckling up while driving.
Thank you. You know, ironically, in the last few days, I've seen where people in the Kansas City metro region have died with their seat belts not on, young people. And that's terrible, and this should never happen. So this is really relevant right now in our communities, so please buckle up. Next, consent agenda. One motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present. Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
I'd like to discuss F.
F. I'm reading it, I'm sorry. Okay. Any others considering? We've got a motion. Any other discussion right now to pull? Seeing none. All in favor? I would vote. What are we looking for?
With pulling F.
For the rest of the consent agenda? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passed. Okay. Motion F is approved resolution R 2020-73.
A resolution approving task agreement number 2020-1 with Black & McDonald in a not-to-exceed amount of $83,500 for the construction of the distribution panel, electrical cabinet, cutoff switches, and wire at the Public Works facility.
Okay, Councilwoman Davidson.
We have an on-call agreement with Black & McDonald, right? This may be my own mistaken knowledge, but I assumed that when we set up an on-call agreement, that's for any work that might occur after hours or an emergency basis. Can you explain that?
Yeah, this would also be for work that we do not have the labor force in-house to be able to perform. And so just like like for our engineering services, where we would contract that out, this is the type of work. So as we've shared before, there's much of the work at the site that we are doing ourselves. But in this situation, this is electrical work that involves all of those areas that we've asked them to do. When it says we have an agreement like this, it means that we've gone and we've actually competitively bid this item to get contractors in to be able to, we've evaluated their experience, their time in the field, and their prior contracts with other organizations, and look at their abilities, and that's how we were able to select them. So from there, then we, any of the work that we need to do, then they provide us with a quote, and we utilize their services.
That's helpful, thank you. When I read it, I was like, well, we didn't bid out that specific piece. And so I wanted to make sure that I was understanding it correctly, that us having an on-call agreement with them, how do I want to say this? I guess that we weren't just giving them this because we have an on-call agreement with them, but that there was more explanation to it.
Yeah,
So-
they're selected based upon their ability to do the work and perform the work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion for item F.
Motion approving resolution R20-73.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Moving on, regular agenda. A motion approving the first reading of bill number 2020-46.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the First Amendment to the amended and restated service contract between the Little Blue Valley Sewer District and the city of Belton, Missouri.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
Sorry, I'm taking up everybody's time tonight.
No, you're not.
I did have a question. If there's no impact to billing, why make the change?
I'm going to turn this over to Greg. He's been more involved with the Little Blue Valley Sewer District.
I appreciate that question. This has been a discussion item at the Little Blue Valley Sewer Group that we sit at. I sit in the technical committee. The mayor sits at the mayor's advisory group. And this is something that has been discussed for many years. And so when you look at the two ways that there's the existing way that they do billing, and it's actually determined the amount of flow that you're going to be charged versus the way they want to charge flow now, it really comes down to understanding the algebraic equations. And so, you know, back when you're in high school and they said, you're never going to take algebra, am I ever going to use this in real life? Well, tonight's the night. So if you look at the way we currently use it, it's called a linear equation. So it's basically a straight line equation. So they do it by quarters. And so it's the same amount of time, but they add, as a quarter passes, they roll one off and they add a new one. They calculate a new line. However, that line is influenced by high peaks and low peaks. When you go to a rolling average, you're just taking the last 60 months and adding them up and dividing by 60. So there's less influence from the high and low peaks. So for us, right now, we're pretty much, they have all these different graphs. Our graph is pretty straight. We have, you know, as it rains, it goes up. As it, like this month, it's going to be down. So it goes up and down and up and down, and they put these graphs to it to try to best fit it. When you get to a bigger city like Kansas City Independence, on their big rainfalls, there's big spikes and there's big drop-offs. And so that changes their billing quite a bit. And so this is to try to smooth out the billing. For the ones who are a little more level, the smaller town you get, the little the variance there is. So it doesn't affect us as much. When you get to a bigger city, it has more ups and downs, and so there's more variable in their rate. And so they want to make sure they get as close as they can to the actual rate. And so this will leave a smaller amount of variation. For us, it's very, very little difference. For other cities, because this affects everybody, for other cities, it reduces their variation quite a bit. So they have been pushing for this for years. It really makes us no difference which way it is, one way or another. Our rates are going to be pretty much the same. And so it helps them, so we haven't been opposed to it. And so, because all the members have to vote for it. And so we're not opposed to this, so we're bringing it forward to pass it.
Along with that, how does I&I, explain a little bit, how does that affect the flow?
I&I is basically water infiltrating the sewer system, the sanitary sewer system, from rainfalls. And so the more it rains and the more holes you have in your system, everybody's got holes, the more water gets into your system, so the more water gets sent down the little blue. It goes through a meter and meters it. So the next coming months, you're going to see we're going to have a contract we're going to issue to do I&I to block rainwater from getting to our sanitary sewer, which reduces the amount you pay at Little Blue. And so different places I've worked before, we do a lot of work in doing I&I, and you can reduce your sewer costs because you're not treating rainwater. And so that's one of the variances that causes the numbers to go up and down.
How is our, I want to say our structure, our public works, how are pipes, are we in good shape in this way, or what's it like? What are you finding?
There's certain areas that need a lot of work. I can tell you because we've opened manholes and some of them are full of water, which tells you that there's a lot of rainwater in them getting trapped. And so the west side of the city, we are going to start I&I first. And there are some places that have experienced backups during rainstorms, and they experience that because the rainwater is getting into your sanitary sewer. So we're going to do what we can to start getting those tighter and tighter and sealing them off. If you go back 20 years, 30 years ago, plumbers would go to a clay pipe, and instead of actually putting the connection in there and have a sealed connection, they take a hammer and just break out the side of the clay pipe and stick your sewer pipe into it, and it'd be wide open. And so they just stick it in there, and you can actually fit your fingers in there, and that's how much rainwater can get into those pipes. And now we're going back, no one thought much about it, 30, 40 years ago, but it is a big deal. So now we're having to go back and seal all those up.
And the Little Blue, is that probably on the oldest part of Belton that flows to the Little Blue?
It's both.
Well,
Some goes to Little Blue, and some goes to our plant.
what percent goes to Little Blue?
It's basically where you see the railroad in town is the high point. So everything from the railroad north goes to Little Blue. Everything south and west of the railroad heads to our plant, roughly.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to ask, so if we do see some sort of savings, how would we treat that going forward?
If they were to cut it, what Little Blue Valley will do is they will come back and take a look at what that average is, and then they would come back to tell us what our rates renewals are every year. It would have an impact on probably staying, if it goes down, we'd have to take a look at how that impacts what our plan is going forward for replacing and doing these repairs, just exactly what he was talking about. And if it goes up, that's the amount of our rate increase.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine any company's going to come back and say, oh, we're going to reduce your rates. I don't ever see that happening for anything. So I assume it could be, we may just not have as much of a hike next year or whatever, just hypothetically speaking, but interesting to know. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. B, a motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2020, 47.
An ordinance approving the final plat for Autumn Ridge Third Plat a tract of land lying in Section 13, Township 46, Range 33, in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the plat for recording with the Cass County Recorder's Office.
Present.
Motion and second, discussion. Question, Councilwoman Peak.
Yes. Let's see, Dave, Mr. Clemens, on the, in looking at the final plat, the playground equipment, is it considered institutional for the location? In other words, it's not going to be like what I might have in my backyard for my grandkids. It's going to be a better quality.
Yes, it would be my expectation that the playground equipment would be institutional or commercial quality. Now, that's not been defined at this point in time. When we do get a building permit for the parking lot and the trail construction and the construction of the playground, all those elements will come in at that time, and we can review the type of equipment at that point in time with a building permit.
Okay, and any questions that I might have concerning the park and what's going to be done in there at that time? Wait until that time to ask them?
Well, you can ask now because, they won't come back to the city council for permit review.
Okay, with regards to the playground, there are considerations that I think we all want to make sure is being taken care of. With regards to the travel patterns of the children to and from the playground, are there any hazards in the way? Like, are there roads? Are there any little creeks or anything like that that might come into play?
The playground's to be developed on an open space tract in this phase, and there are no houses nearby. There are no creeks or any type of outcroppings or rocks or anything that would be dangerous for children to play on.
Okay, what about any roads? The roads to the park or around the park? Can a child, like, by accident, mother, looks one direction for 2 seconds and turns around and their child's taken off out into, like, the road? Is there going to be fencing anywhere or a hedge around it to maybe stop that child?
Preliminary plan does not show fencing. Now, the park does adjoin Sycamore, but there is a small parking lot for residents to drive up to the park and park in that small parking lot and then utilize the park. So the park facilities are not directly abutting the street or the sidewalk, so there is a separation of probably 70 feet between the edge of the right-of-way and where the actual playground equipment is.
Okay, and then what about sun exposure? I know the slide's not going to be metal, I would hope, but what about shade for the parents that are sitting there or the children that might be out there playing that they could, we all are concerned with melanoma and what the damage done by the sun. Is there going to be any type of shade for anyone, park bench or benches or anything like that?
Yeah, there'll be resting benches with playground equipment. Early on in the process, discussing the playground, the staff did ask for a picnic shelter, and the applicant indicated they were not interested in doing that.
They were not interested in doing a picnic shelter.
Picnic shelters, right.
Okay, so basically there's nothing blocking the sun at this point.
That's
because
correct.
they are not interested in doing that for
They
families.
chose not to follow my suggestion. That's correct.
That's unfortunate. And then the materials for the playground itself are the tires or whatever they use for the cushioning.
Yeah, there's a note on the plan. It's an approved recreational surface.
Okay. I'm concerned about the sun exposure. I would think that they would want to put something up with regards to protecting the children, the families that are using the facility. But thank you for those answers.
Councilwoman Davidson.
I'm not as worried well, I mean, just in general, as a redheaded person, yes, I'm worried about sun exposure. But if I'm taking my toddler out, like she's got sunscreen on, that's fine. But I do think it's odd that they wouldn't put like a fence or partition or even a shrub blocking, any direct way to
Hazard.
a major roadway. Things happen, accidents happen. It just seems odd that they would not want to do that and that they'd be so adverse to a picnic shelter. Seems odd to me.
Other comments, questions?
Well, the applicant is present. If there are questions for the applicant, the council
Well,
could.
let me get Councilman Van Winkle first. Go ahead.
It's related to that same issue, but on page 212, you're talking about stormwater drainage study, and also comments from city engineer. Has that all been worked out?
Yes, sir.
Well, could we have the developer to come to the podium then?
Robert Walquist, Quist Engineering, 821 Columbus, Lee Summit, Missouri. I apologize, the client could not be here. They had a COVID exposure and they could not make it, so I apologize for that. I am the civil engineer.
And I'm Robin Martinez. I'm an attorney with Martinez, Tobin, and Redmond. We're at 1828 Swift in North Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. Questions? Which ones do you want to deal with? Anything you want to say of the ones that have been handled here first?
I guess just the shelter, that was just another expense that the client, everything obviously costs money, and the price point we're trying to hit is, as a single family development. I think that was their big thing, and then you have to have more parking, and that location didn't really, couldn't get that much parking, because you start putting shelters and stuff like that, and you have to get the parking for that, so.
Okay, question I would have off of that is that most of our playgrounds have a shelter close to them throughout the city. And a lot of times we have different sponsors that do those things. Would you find the land to do that? To do a shelter if we found other people to do a project to build a shelter, a picnic shelter?
We did look into, I guess we kicked around the idea of dedicating this to the Parks Department. I don't believe the client ever actually talked to the Parks Department, but that would definitely be a discussion where we could, instead of the homeowners just taking care of this, that they would just build it to the parks standards. Back to the playground, it is commercial grade playground. It's not something that you'd put in your backyard. It's a lot more expensive than that, so. But it'll be, I think I put a pattern on one of the plans.
Right.
We did that in other communities in Blue Springs, and that, I guess we haven't put any shelters in. We tried gazebos at one time, and they just ended up getting graffitied and kind of tore up. But that's just an experience that might have been random.
A
But
lot of playgrounds that I'm around all the day walking around in the parks, they have shelters, they have shade over them.
yes.
So will these have shade over?
Well, they'll have one little,
Right.
when they climb up the slide, they'll have a climbing wall on one side, and then they'll have a landing, and then the landing will go to a slide, and then to I think a bridge, one of those swing bridges.
Well, Dave, do we have any landscaping, like for trees to be there for shade or anything of that nature?
Well, we could always work with them on what at the time the permits come in to talk about some enhancements to the facility, yes.
Now, would they be agreeable with that type of a,
I think we put in street trees along.
I knew the street, but I'm talking in the vicinity of the playground.
Yeah, we definitely we'll put trees in most likely around that trail that we're putting in.
Because
They
I know
put
one of the
shrubs.
parks in Belton has, over by the senior center, they have one tree that gives shade for the whole area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna take years for
Yeah,
that to
to
get
say
that size.
that, that's 20 years down the road, but,
The developer's certainly open to working with the planning department, on issues like that as we go forward with
Yeah.
the permitting. So I don't see that as being particularly problematic. The one thing that we did want to be cognizant of, though, is that because the park is ultimately going to be maintained by the homeowners association, we don't want to create more instances that will then wind up increasing the cost to the homeowners. So we're trying to balance that and sort of be cognizant of that as well. Now, if the city is open to dedication for park, to where that becomes the Parks Department's responsibility and not the homeowners association, I think we're certainly open to that kind of a discussion as well.
Well, speaking as living here for a long time, I think the homeowners will want their kids to be safe and cool. And so in the future, what normally happens is they seed them over to the park, which is a separate entity. They have their own board.
right.
And they will decide, not a good time right now in a COVID when things are tough. But that would be up to them to decide if they want to take over the responsibility. Would you allude to that? Go ahead.
I guess maybe if it's a cost issue, you're having a parking lot by the playground, in front of the playground for use of the playground, do you need the parking lot?
Yes, the code requires off-street parking for recreational spaces. Yes.
Well, now frankly, originally, we would have liked to have just expanded the footprint of the park and not put a parking lot. But
But
You know,
we do agree with staff that the
They've
parking
said no.
lot is best. Just because it's, most likely you're gonna have a couple that are a long way away. And then trying to walk all the way and then get stuck in the rain,
Yeah.
with little kids.
I mean, I think sometimes the parking lots cause more issues than the convenience that they provide. I mean, I can see both ways.
Right, yeah. But it also gets a buffer between the busy road and because we would have put the playground right next to the road. That would have been
So what I would say is, if you're in agreements, you're gonna go back and tell what we're looking for. If we pass this evening, we can still not go along with it in the second read. Is that right, Dave?
Well, yes, sir, but, perhaps what we could do is work with the applicant team and come up with some revised wording to add to the ordinance for second reading. So we perhaps have some more information in that ordinance at second reading to make it a little bit more defined. I
Is
could
that
work with Andrea on that.
Okay with everybody here? Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Robert, will you write your last name and the attorney can
She's like that all the time, believe me.
She wants to be precise, right? Oh, come.
I'm going to go ahead and start this.
Go ahead, sorry.
So, C, a motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2020-48. That's an ordinance approving the final plat for Petitions Villa, second plat, a tract of land lying in the southwest 1/4 of Section 18, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the plat for recording with the Cass County Recorder's Office.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. D, a motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2020-49.
An ordinance approving an amendment to the city's zoning map from C2 General Commercial District to R3A Planned Unit Development District for 17.5 .15 acres of the parcel located at the southeast corner of Town Center Drive and Markey Parkway in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a comment that I think that the rezoning is appropriate. Personally, I cannot imagine that hill being built out entirely commercial. So I think that this is an appropriate rezoning.
Anybody else? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Move for second reading.
Got a second? A motion and a second.
Who was the
Okay.
second, please? Which one you want?
Multiple choice.
Give it to Chad, he always has to have.
Get his 2
All right,
cents
we got a
in there.
motion and a second. Discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
Yeah, I have a few people that have concerns about this that I've not yet been able to actually touch base and discuss. So I think that waiting the 2 weeks for the second vote is totally appropriate.
Could we have somebody, a representative, to come to the,
Yeah.
up again, please, from Case? And then I'll let you, why don't you go ahead and ask your question
And
while you're.
that was leading into my question. Is this going to jam you up? We wait 2 weeks to get a second reading on this for you guys. Is there any timeline restraints here?
No, if this would accommodate the council, we're happy to wait 2 weeks.
Okay, we've got a couple that are not here tonight, and I think they would need an opportunity as well, so I agree with Councilwoman Davidson for once.
I would just say if there are questions following that between now and the second reading, please feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, we'll
so
get
I
them
can
into you.
answer those questions.
Okay, so with that, any other comments or questions?
Well, I just had one.
Yes.
I thought since they come up here from Oklahoma, we could get it all done in one meeting, and I thought they answered most of the questions that we asked. But if we have more, well, I can live with that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councilman Trutzel.
Councilman, if there was a problem with this, they sure didn't appear at planning and zoning. And I'm, I just kind of question. I'm not hung up on doing the second reading anyway, but like you said, they're out of town, so. Is it necessary for you guys to come back for a second reading?
Sorry.
Getting your steps in tonight.
I get to count my steps.
I mean, barring any issues, I don't think it's necessary for them to come back. I certainly can be present just to make sure everything goes smoothly, but I would really appreciate knowing any issues ahead of that second reading so we can make the decision.
Councilman Davison, is it necessary for them to come back?
Personally, no, I don't. I mean, I could understand having an attorney present, but as far as Mr. Case, if he felt compelled, could even call in potentially and be available for any questions. But for me, no, I don't see any reason that you would need to appear in person.
Yeah, to date, we haven't heard any issues, so.
Yeah, and regarding the person that I've heard from, without telling her business, she is usually not available in the evening, so she hasn't been able to attend meetings, which I understand,
I think I'll withdraw my second then.
Okay. Now we have a motion, but we don't have a second.
I'll withdraw the motion.
It's withdrawn.
Drops on the
Okay,
floor.
so we expected, does anybody else want to make a motion instead? Seeing none, we are moving on. City Council liaison reports. Councilwoman Davidson for the park. I was going real slow for you there.
It's me again. So I received a quick update from Brian Wellborn at the Parks Department regarding some of the fall yes, fall sports. And the numbers have definitely been impacted by the COVID-19 ongoing issue here, but he wanted to report the numbers that we do have. So Tiny Tots T-ball, 33 participants. The Little Diggers, 9 participants. The Little Kickers, 46 participants. Volleyball, 57. Flag football, 74. Baseball and softball, 141. And soccer, 76. He also wanted me to mention that Friday, October 30th, is when the Conservation Department will be there at the pond to stock the first round of trout, so that's exciting. And then just some upcoming events. Calling all treat vendors. If you're a business, organization, or an area resident who wants to be part of the annual tradition, you can join us this year for the Treat Street, a reimagined Pumpkin Palooza on Saturday, October 24th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Wallace Park. The vendor trunk space is free. You just sign up, decorate your vehicle if you would like, and hand out treats to kids as they drive through. It's a great way to be safe and have fun, and a big thanks to our Safe Fleet and ROM Corporation again for sponsoring the annual Halloween event. If you would like to sign up, you can contact Melissa Ferrari at beltonparks.org to join the fun. And then you can still register for the virtual 5K run walk until the 14th. You choose the run walk path that you want. You can even do it on a treadmill. You can register at teamsideline.com. And you record your time to Facebook with a picture, or you can send it directly to annetteB@beltonparks.org between October 10th and 31st. A t-shirt is included for the price, and then times will be compared to those in the same gender and age, and first and second place will be acknowledged. That wraps it up.
That's all? Hey, thank you. All right, any other liaison reports, any of sort? Okay, mayor's communication. I'm going to do my commercial first about the COVID. It's not going away. Folks, we have to take care of this dilemma. We have to be smart. We have to be, again, cognizant of the danger that we're putting each other in peril. We got to be caring. Our staff's done a great job in front of every aspect of national, state, and again, county efforts. We appreciate all that they've done to perform, and it's our first responders are the ones that are in double jeopardy, I'd say, and people that are in contact. You've got to care about them and, get a chance to thank all the staff and all the people that are doing a great job trying to keep our community the best they can and safe. But you got to remember that the quote is, again, the best thing about the worst time of your life is to get to see the true colors of everyone. And what I'm going to say about that is that when things are at the worst, you have to be at your best. That's true and genuine people, that you got to care about everybody, and we have to care. We have to. The FDR quote that I always used during the Depression was, and I quote, "When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on it." It's just, you can't give up. You got to care and be concerned with what everybody else is doing. My next communication was that the city received a letter dated October 2nd. I received it from the state auditor's office, Nicole Calloway, notifying the city that there will be performing an audit of the city. And while there's nothing further to speak until the state audit is complete, we do look forward to the work addressing any questions the citizens of Belton may have about the financial operations of the city. So we have provided this letter here, the city clerk, for appropriate record keeping. So I'll give her this at the end of the meeting from Nicole Galloway. So that's all I have. So I'm up to you, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have this evening is just a reminder of the coming meetings in October and November. We do have the holidays coming up. The last meeting of the year is December 22nd. Unless I hear otherwise, that meeting would still be held on that day on the week of Christmas. Just want people to start thinking about that in the future, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, with that, any communication from City Council? Councilman Lathrop.
Well, discussing that thing the state's gonna do, the audit. In the paper, it said it was gonna cost a lot of money. Who is paying for it there? Where's the money coming from?
Do you want me to address it, or are you going to address it?
You can address it, Mayor, or I'm happy to address it as well.
Well, go ahead.
In the letter from the auditor's office, it states that the fee for the audit is $100,000 to $150,000, with the city of Belton required to pay for the actual expense, and that the mayor has already notified me to include that in our budget.
Then it's where's the money gonna come from? You know, sales tax? What, you know, I don't know. It's just a question I had.
I understand.
Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Peak, sorry.
Did we not already put that in our budget for 2021?
It was mentioned in the budget and stated that if it was approved, we would have to make adjustments to the budget accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, okay. You got one here, Councilman Trutzel.
About how long does it take to do this?
That's looking into the looking glass, Councilman Trutzel. I don't know. We haven't even heard from the auditor's office yet. I understand it takes some time to even hear from them. And then we'll have discussions, and I guess they'll tell us what it is that they want to look at. But it's all speculation at this point. I just don't know.
How long has Raytown's audit been going?
I don't have that information, Mayor. My apologies.
2 years.
Okay.
2 years it's been going on. Just thought I'd give you that tidbit.
I'll move right along.
So, wow, then will we keep that money in the budget, or if it goes long?
The money will, depending on when the auditors come to us, since it's not in this year's budget, we will definitely be including it in next year's budget, and it will be retained
Okay.
there.
Anybody else with the comment? Go ahead, Councilman Lathrop.
Well, if it's gonna go 2 years, is that 150,000 covering both years?
That's the cost of the project, the
Regardless
estimated
of how long
cost
it
with
goes.
the actual cost being required to be paid. So worst case scenario, we hope, is 150,000. It could be slightly more, depending upon their service and the time that it takes them to do it. Could be less. And so it will just be retained in the budget, and then carry, if it's not done in the next fiscal year, we would then carry it over to the following fiscal year.
Okay.
Any other comments from the council? Seeing none, I would entertain
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? I'm waiting for you. Ah, you change your mind all the time.
Only executive.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is good. We are abandoned. Okay, adjourned. Thank you.